Hello, everybody. Welcome to this very monochrome edition of Comix-Watch. I am Black and White Enjoyer Nick, and joining me is color exclusivist Jared from Comics League. How you doing, buddy?
Not being a colorist, Nick.
But there's so many of them.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. So basically, we're here to talk about like black and white comics and how it kind of contrasts with the color variant. So I just kind of want to start off, Jared. You're kind of more new to like the black and white comics game. Like, what is the advantage?
Well, for one thing, obviously it's cheaper for the creator because they don't have to pay for another step. But to a degree, when you look at black and white comics, you're able to like appreciate the penciler's work a little more because it's not like embellished by the inks. It's not embellished, particularly if you're going with like my experience with it, which are DC on Wrap Book, where it's just the artist pencils. You're able to appreciate more like the skill and artistry as opposed when it's a completed image, because to a degree, the art changes when you ink it and then you color it. So this is like the pure image.
Yeah, and as a person who is a fan of black and white comics and who has made my own, yes, it is cheaper. Not just from, you don't have to do an extra step, but also printing is cheaper. And the thing that I like about black and white is when done right, it has like an extra contrast to it. So Jared, you're talking about like unwrapped books, and I only realized when you were saying that, I myself have done an unwrapped book.
There you go.
You guys can't see it. I actually did a line art version of Creature Issue 2 as a backing. And this is literally an unwrapped book, isn't it?
It literally is.
Yeah, so just looking at this, like, what did you think of, like, from the line art? You're looking at the issue 2 of Creature
It's
as
simple.
opposed to the color.
It's simple and good. You can again, you can appreciate more of like the art of the individual like penciler. There's less like distractions, I guess, is what I would say.
Also, like, you can just tell the amount of detail that Brian put into this, because, like, look at these boxes. Like, look at the amount of lines he had to draw. Like, dear God. Because you can, like, they always say the best kind of art is the ones where you can at least tell the story without the word.
Yeah, exactly. Because if I can figure out what's going on based upon what you just showed, good art.
Black and white, it's contrasting by nature. You can put more detail into it. You have things more pop. We're not going to get into like the limited colors, because I think that kind of goes beyond the scope of the video a little bit. Oftentimes when you see black and white art, it's the inked art. You don't often see the penciler, the raw pencils, because usually it's just like, oh, we'll show you it sans color, but it's going to be inked. And the thing about Jim Lee is Jim Lee has been using the same inker for like almost 30 years. They kind of go hand in hand.
In addition to your stuff, because obviously I back all your stuff, give me a little bit more of an appreciation for black and white as a thing, because again, it's more simple. And in fact, the other thing I picked up was this Batman a Justice Buster manga. I don't have like it on the digital. That's the point. I'm saying I have experience with black and white comics, just not as extensively.
And one that like we all like, we're talking about black and white comics. There's a couple that we gotta bring up. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, it all started like that, right?
Yeah, and it started like that. And so obviously I have a black and white comic, and usually I get one of two responses for my comic, and it's kind of dictated by age. The young people, they liken it to a manga, which is kind of the point. The older people, I'm waiting. Jared's joke in 3, 2.
Oh,
1.
you mean essentially the people from the Stone Age?
Right on time. There are different ways to do black and white. When this one, it's heavily with the shading and whatnot.
And again, you can do more with less. And that's the other thing about black and white that's actually really interesting. It forces you to do more with less. And what you discover, you can get away with a lot with black and white. Oh, and the other exposure I have to black and white media is the black and white cut of the Snyder Cut.
That's fan-made, right?
No, it's actually a thing that was released at the same time the Snyder Cut came out. It's called the Justice's Gray Edition.
Here is a thing of Turn Samurai.
Now, my question is, Nick, is there a plan down the line to turn this whole thing into manga-fy it into that format?
Yes, actually. And let me just I'll get back to that in a little bit. This is from issue 2, and I'm showing you this because this is like just the bare bones kind of like ink and line art, but we did kind of change it up for issue 3 and going forward with issue 4, and then when we redo it for the trade, we're gonna change issue 1 and 2. Even this on its own, it's pretty good. Like you talked about, like the abstract, there's kind of a less and more approach to this. was your experience when you first read Turned Samurai?
It was jarring because I'm not used to black and white comics, but after I got through it, I was like, okay, so let me reread this again. So I reread it again. And I was like, okay, I get why he's... Plus, here's the thing. When you're going for the subject matter that you're doing, which is basically a samurai story, granted it's in the future, but still a samurai story, it works that you're going black and white because a lot of those famous samurai movies are like black and white films. So
yeah, the Kurosawa films.
Yeah, it goes together like the colors black and white, for lack of a better term.
It goes together like samurai and cyberpunk.
Yeah, exactly. So it fits it feels like you're watching a Kurosawa film.
We're going to go a bit beyond the scope of the video today and then kind of talk about limited colors. I freaking love this art style of like
it
limited
looks
colors.
So good.
So with me, it's the color red. Look at how well that pops.
Because, and that's the thing, you want to pick like really bright colors because then it's different. It's like with the fireballs or the explosion or the tattoos.
Like, the tattoos work so well. And I love it. So we were talking about Turned Samurai being in manga dye. That is actually the plan. So right now there's going to be 5 issues in Volume 1 of Turned Samurai, and when we get done with issue 5, I am going to completely redraw issue 1, and I'm going to reshade issue 2. Basically, all of them are going to have like the same shading art style, and they're all going to be blood and steel. And I'm going to publish it in a manga digest.
Will you have rate it backward?
I could do that if I wanted to, but I don't have to. I haven't decided yet. See, my thing is, I really like this art style, and I know it's like you take this off the shelf of Barnes & Noble, then you like just pop it open to any page, and you see stuff like this. And people go, wow, this pop.
Particularly with the red. You picked a color that really pops. Like, Marvel did a similar idea with this with like a Wolverine book that was like black, white, and blood. I think that's what the title is. Even sometimes they've done that with Wonder Woman, where like the only color will be like yellow of her tiara and bracelet. But still, when you do it in this way, it makes for another unique experience.
Oh, by the way, do you know what I called this edition?
What? Blood and Steel?
Blood and Steel. I kind of took it from like the Mad Max Black, White, and Chrome. That's where I kind of got the idea for the naming convention. Blood and Steel. Because like the steel portion does a good job of showcasing like the black and white portion, and obviously steel, for the samurai sword, it's perfect name. So what do you think is the advantage of the color books?
Well, for one thing, it's more realistic because obviously, unless you're colorblind, we see colors. I'm going to reverse what I said earlier, is that when you have a book that's like fully inked and fully colored, you can hide art mistakes, or you could hide like some parts of the penciling that looks a little funky with the like color and ink.
I mean, if you look back at like books from like, I'd say the 2000s, the colors are doing basically the heavy lifting in the books from the 2000s. And I like 2000. You get like Ultimate Spider-Man, the colorist is basically the artist in that book. So what's kind of your favorite eras of coloring? Mine is early 2000s, a little bit late 90s. I like the kind of like pseudo 3D look you got with a lot of those books.
I gotta be honest, a guilty pleasure of mine is the 90s because it's just so freaking ridiculous what they're doing, and the colors pop. I'll give them that. Plus you have like books like Kingdom Come, where to color the book, Alex Ross just painted it. Instead of doing like the traditional colors, he just painted it. And that really, it makes the book pop. And in terms of traditional colors, like any book that Jim Lee draws, I don't care what era it's from, because it always looks good. Particularly when you add in the colors, because he also has had the same colorist for many years.
I was not aware of that.
And that honestly is really good because essentially if the team has worked together for so many years, then they understand like, okay, so Jim draws in this way, so I have to like ink it this way. And then on Alex's side, the colorist, I have to color it this way because Scott's gonna ink it this way.
Yeah, the team aspect for sure.
When the team was doing Hush, Alex Sinclair was just getting out of Lilo and Stitch, and he was trying to figure out how do I do these backgrounds of Gotham. But Lilo and Stitch had like watercolor backgrounds. So he was like, I'm just going to watercolor it.
Interesting. I remember how I was saying like that they like the coloring kind of gave it like a 3D like it
does. It really does.
Like, it's clearly a 2D image, but it just has like this like dimension to it. I think the shading just kind of creates a sense of roundness. They don't look like 3D objects, but they look three-dimensional, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
also,
exactly.
Storm just looks cute as heck.
I wasn't a big fan of the Jean Grey design with the really short hair. I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah, it was the 2000s.
Everything else looks great.
I mean, I do appreciate that they brought back the name Marvel Girl, because it seems like a quick tangent. It seems like Marvel is kind of afraid of giving Jean the name Marvel Girl. Have you noticed that?
Probably because they don't want her confused with Captain Marvel.
Phoenix would wallop Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just I'll tell you what. Here's the step two. Here's the two-step plan to be able to call Jean Grey Marvel Girl. You ready? All right. So first thing you do is you lock Captain Marvel in a room with Rogue. Step two, Jean Grey immediately changes her name to Marvel Girl. Problem solved.
I think Cyclops has been hitting the roids, or Rob Liefeld drew this.
No, if Rob Liefeld drew him, his chest would be like out to here. Remember that Captain America image?
Oh my god, yeah. Didn't he like explain it at some point or something?
He explained it and didn't help. Or no,
this dude's had like abs on top of abs. We're just marveling at this.
It's like in Lego Batman where he goes, "I have a 9-pack." That's right, I have an extra ab. I remember if this were drawn by Rob Liefeld, you'd never see anyone's feet.
So this was not drawn by Rob Liefeld, confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. I love that scene in Deadpool where like Domino's like, "My powers are luck." That's so stupid. It sounds like it was invented by someone who can't draw feet.
Todd's catchphrase is, "When in doubt, black it out," which that explains so much of his career.
I gotta be honest, I don't get the hate on Rob Liefeld's like art because I very much enjoy it. It's essentially like watching an action movie. It's not supposed to be realistic. It's a freaking comic book.
Like a lot of things, it's overhated. Like Nickelback, they're not as bad as people say they are.
Rob Liefeld walks in, "Look at this photograph."
What are some of your favorite eras? How about like comic color, like the colors and like the black and white?
Colors, it's got to be New 52 because a lot of it was like vibrant, it popped. But here's the difference, because the issue with having like colorful superheroes is that it can get a little stupid because you're like, why are people walking around in giant blue tight? However, in the 2011-2012 era, what they ended up doing was being able to color it, but color in a way that it looks realistic and not stupid. It's kind of like the way Zack Snyder colored like Superman's suit. It looked more realistic as opposed to having a bright ass suit.
So this is an issue from like vintage X-Men from the 70s. The thing you gotta realize is this is 10 years before computer coloring came to be. They basically only really had flats to work with. And so because of this, if you notice, the inking has to pick up a lot of the slack. Look at this muscle definition right here. Mm-hmm. In modern comics, this would have been done by coloring. But because of the flat, this would have been shading right here. As a person who has done flat coloring, this would be shading in modern day comics. But because they only had flats to work with, the inks had to pick up a lot of the slack. As the lead on Street, I basically kind of dictate like what kind of art direction I want taking. So for the colors, and I think I told you this, I'm going for a late 90s kind of look. Late 90s, early 2000s, like Ultimate Spider-Man, Nightwing, Young Justice, like those kind of stuff.
Do your characters have feet? I have to ask that because you said 90s.
Now you got me looking. All right, feet confirmed.
Ah, there you go.
Feet confirmed. Shout out to my colorist, Art in Black. They're like the lighting, the way they did the lighting on this just popped so friggin' well. Look at the way the light bounces off the top of the hood.
Yeah,
and goes down.
It kind of glows a little bit.
Even better, like when she lights the flare. Just to kind of wrap it up, and we're kind of comparing and contrasting color comics. Do some bullet point. What is the advantages of color and what is the advantages of black and white, in your opinion?
Black and white's simple. It can be less overwhelming for the reader. You can see more of the pure art of the actual penciler as opposed to being like hidden by the colorists and the inkers. Now for color, the opposite. You can hide a lot of, if the penciler, I forgot the word, makes a mistake while drawing a character, you can kind of fudge it up with the inking and the coloring. And then also it's more realistic because, again, unless you're colorblind, you're going to be reading this. You want to see it the way you see the world, and that. Plus, the fact it just pops a little more as opposed to just black and white.
For me, black and white, obviously, like you said, is cheaper. You can show more detail, get really digging into like the contrasting and the stuff. Color is objectively more engaging because it's, well, more colorful. There's certain details you can show in color that you can't show in black and white. Black and white is definitely more economical. The way I'd summarize it, black and white is more economical, plus has its advantages, but color is more engaging. That's kind of how I'd summarize.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you, Jared, and thank you, everybody. If you made it this far, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And check out the links below to my Patreon, my Redbubble. Thank you, everyone. And remember, I can only show you the door.
You're the one that has to walk through it.